Ayo, jabronis. Long time no see. I had to get back to my day job. Oh, I have a permit. Today we will be speaking with a very special guest, a champion of the underdogs, a king to the jabronis, co-founder of Troma Studios and creator of The Toxic Avenger, legendary Lloyd Kaufman.
Hey, Brian, good to see you, and thank you for working with Troma on so many projects. Jabroni. Unbelievable. Thank you.
The pleasure's been all mine. Somewhere along those years, I heard a story. I'd really like for you to tell both of my followers your side of it. Right. I understand in the mid-'70s you worked for legendary John G. Avildsen on the film Rocky.
Speaking of legendary, by the way, I hate to interrupt if intellectual like you, but speaking of legendary, there is a company called Legendary. They produce movies like Zilla versus Kong. They are financing the remake of The Toxic Avenger, the $1 billion remake. Legendary. So there you go. Anyway, it's going to be very good. It's really going to be good. Macon Blair, the director, is a young Troma fanatic. Peter Dinklage is going to play the Toxic Avenger, which is pretty original, if you ask me. So I think you'll be very happy with the $1 billion sequel.
Does this mean that Troma is going to experience sort of a giant mainstream resurgence, or no?
I don't know. We'll see. I believe that the movies, I've read the script a couple of times. I gave notes. It looks really good. And Macon Blair is, as I say, he's seen every Troma movie, loves Troma. He has put in many references to historic Troma works of art, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the mainstream and the Troma fans will love the Toxic Avenger reimagining, thanks to Legendary and Macon Blair. Kevin Bacon is in it, and Bacon rhymes with the Macon. Macon Blair brought home the bacon. We've got Elijah Wood. No! So finally, after 50 years of making movies, I got me some wood.
Some of the information about the new Toxic Avenger film, it's here, it's there. To hear it from you, it means something.
It's been wrapped. It has been wrapped. Peter Dinklage playing the Toxic Avenger is brilliant, very original, very risk. It wouldn't be the obvious. Most of these mainstream movies are not terribly original. I'd say putting in Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger, talk about taking a risk, talk about getting a toxerific actor. He's terrific. And I know this will be the best Toxic Avenger. Right now, I believe that Citizen Toxie, the fourth Toxic Avenger, is the best one, Brian. But I do believe Macon Blair is going to create some movie magic, some big budget, traumatic, toxerific movie magic.
And everybody listen for that name. It's hardly the first big name to come out of Troma, and not just an actor, but people who have worked directly for you are living that life right now.
Well, how about Jabroni Guitar? That's a big deal. Trey Parker, James Gunn, Eli Roth, Samuel Jackson, and many more have been birthed through the vagina of Troma Entertainment. Quite nice.
Lloyd, in the mid-'70s, I understand you worked on a film for John G. Avildsen, the great film Rocky. While you were doing this, it brought you into a lot of gyms. Maybe this gave you an idea? Lloyd, is this true? Tell us.
Well, first of all, before Rocky, there was Joe, which was Peter Boyle's first movie, Susan Sarandon's first movie, and it was my first professional movie set other than my own movies, which are not exactly professional. And I became friendly with John G. Avildsen, and then I got involved in producing his next movie, which is called Cry Uncle.
I portrayed a drug user on film, a flipped-out hippie.
And you can see Cry Uncle on Troma's amazing platform, streaming platform, Troma Now. It's the future, but now. Troma Now, you can get the app, and you can go in through Roku and Google and Apple movies, and there's wherever you want. You can use the Troma app. First month is free on Troma now, but you can see Cry Uncle, which was a very low budget movie directed by John G. Avildsen. It when it came out, it was X-rated. It's hilarious. It's a very, very funny movie, and the late Alan Garfield stars in it. It's on Troma now. And nobody knows about Cry Uncle, but it is hilarious. I worked on Rocky, and Troma line produced all the Philadelphia scenes in Rocky.
I had heard that. Yeah, I'd heard they were.
We used non-union crew. We used the Cry Uncle crew, and a smattering of Troma people, volunteers, and we shot about 8 or 9 days in Philadelphia with Stallone and Talia and Burgess Meredith, and of course our good buddy Joe Spinell from Maniac Cop. We distribute now Maniac Cop. That's one of them. And the last horror film. He's terrific, and he was a great actor, I must say. And he's great and a nice guy, a very good guy in Rocky. Had a good time with him.
Now, he was fantastic. I like that movie with Fred Williamson from 1983, Vigilante.
Oh, well, of course. Well, Maniac was Joe Spinell. That's by William Lustig. That's a beautiful film.
Yeah. As I understand, or so the legend goes, maybe you can clear this up, spending time in all of these gyms working on Rocky gave you an idea for a film of your own. Is that true? And what was that film?
Well, I had made several films prior to working on Rocky, but Rocky, Saturday Night Fever, my dinner with Andre, I think those were my film school. So I learned a lot on those movies, and I didn't go to film school. You can probably tell from my movies.
No, nobody would ever think that watching a Troma movie. No,
you're a nice guy. You're a very nice guy. What is that case behind you? Is that a saxophone case or a suitcase over your? Yeah.
They house these guitars. Yeah.
I play that. I dabbled with the clarinet, and I did have a saxophone when I was 12 years old.
Bird and Monk, you are not?
Well, I'd never even heard of Vernon Monk. No, I was as far away from Monk or Bird or Coltrane or any of those people as you could get. Also, my instrument was the clarinet, at which I stunk, and I gave it up in 9th grade. I recently, thanks to a good friend, COVID pandemic rather, since I've been stuck at home, my wife bought me a new clarinet, and I've been hacking away at it. In fact, if people have asked me, they hire me to do a cameo.
Yeah.
A cameo is they pay you a little money, and some of them I've introduced with my clarinet playing. So if anybody out there wants to hire me for a cameo and they want the clarinet, let me know. I don't have the clarinet here at the office, so I probably should keep one here. Yeah. Played it, especially at 7 o'clock during the height of the pandemic. At 7 o'clock, my neighborhood would go out in the street and bang pots and pans and drums, and I'd play the clarinet to thank the frontline workers. They would much prefer to hear us clapping and banging on pots than they would get money, right? They much prefer that to getting checks or contributions to their GoFundMe. But I sent money to at least 4 hospitals, specifically for the nurses.
That's very, very good of you.
I didn't even require any sort of, how shall I say it, exploitation movie nurses. Any kind of nurse. Any nurse should get my contribution.
Yeah. Not just the Candy Stripe Nurse. Good movie, too, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. That's it. My wife was a Candy Stripe from North Carolina. Well, I got kicked off Instagram twice. I'm the oldest, probably the only 76-year-old man or 75-year-old man who got kicked off. But I have a new one, Uncle Lloyd Kaufman. So if you care to, and I guess I'm not quite as... I'm not quite as daring on the new Instagram. If they want to kick you off, they're going to kick you off. Doesn't matter. You could cite verses from the Bible and they'd find something wrong with it. You know, we're living in an age where you can say you have freedom of speech as long as you don't say anything. You know what I mean? The Troma channel on YouTube, Troma Movies channel, about 10 years ago, to thank our fans for 40 years of support, we put all our movies on YouTube, the Troma movies on YouTube for free for 10 years. And then suddenly we wake up one morning and these very same movies have been reviewed for communities, have been removed due to community standards. So then our fans went crazy and YouTube put the channel back, but we decided that we would migrate everything off of the free channel because YouTube wasn't paying us any money. And, you know, we used to get a fair shake. On a movie that we used to get that had maybe 1 million views, we'd get about $1,000. The next year, when we had more views with that very same movie, we got $1. So there's no purpose in staying on YouTube. And we have Troma Now, the platform that's got the app, and it's better than Netflix. Most people say it's better than Netflix. It's not as good as OnlyFans, of course. And I have very good news to report that OnlyFans has now rescinded, just the way YouTube put our channel back. There's been such an outcry versus the cop-out of OnlyFans that OnlyFans has now agreed to go back to what made it successful, namely explicit sex. So.
And, yeah. Same with Jabroni Show. Almost zero chance of making any money, probably because of the Troma Association.
He says it's because of the Troma Association, but I think it's because he's lame.
We can teach you how to not make money. That's a quiet art. It takes 48 years of Troma to perfect the art of. In fact, if you look at, I think on my Twitter, there's a quote from Trey Parker. It says, "Nobody knows how not to make money as well as Lloyd Kaufman." Something like that from Trey Parker.
So I guess what I was kind of looking for, maybe I've heard it wrong. I understood that the Toxic Avenger was somewhat influenced by the time spent in those gyms, and it was going to be called Health Club Horror. Is that not true?
Yes. Originally, it was called Health Club Horror when we were writing the original story. And then I think it was Walter Manley, who was our agent, our sales agent, or actually our non-sales agent. And he suggested that movies that had the word Avenger in them, this is like 1982, that might be something to think about as the title. So I don't know where I got the well, the whole idea of Toxic Avenger, the theme is the environment. You know, many years before Al Gore said he invented the internet and jumped on the environmental bandwagon.
Was there
the
any
Toxic Avenger came out way ahead of all the bullshit environmentalists. We were there long before.
Oh, it undoubtedly had the message and the styrofoam McDonald's containers and Richard Nixon's 6 crises. There's really a lot going on in that film.
You're the first person, I think, in almost 40 years of Toxic Avenger who mentioned that we had the Richard Nixon book in the collab. You see close-up of Toxie's giant foot stepping into the mud and toxic waste on top of Nixon's book.
After having spent some time with you, and you and I have spent a little bit of time together, a person that's paying attention picks up on sort of some of these Lloydisms. And yeah, watching that, I see it and I go, Lloyd did that on purpose. He did that on purpose.
Well, also, I didn't even come up with that. That was a Mad magazine, if I remember correctly. That was something that I saw in Mad magazine, kind of a throwaway. So that's kind of what I did, except in Mad magazine, it wasn't really thrown away. My movie, it was a genuine throwaway. You're the only person who noticed it.
They're full of little tidbits.
No, Macon Blair probably noticed it, the director of the Toxic Avenger, reimagining.
I would hope, yeah.
Certainly he knows. Yeah, he did.
Nah.
And Stan Lee loved that little. Stan Lee's favorite Troma movie was Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD.
A superhero
He
film.
wanted to make, he briefly tried to talk to Jim Carrey into signing up for a reimagining of Sergeant Kabuki-Man NYPD, which would have been wonderful, but nothing happened. I stayed, Stan and I were very good buddies from around 1970 till his death. He's in about 10 of our movies. And we wrote a couple of scripts together. We worked with Alain Resnais together. We never got to create any, we never got anything to the actual drawing board, but we had a good time. Very good guy.
Sergeant
Wonderful
Kabuki.
guy. We dedicated Return to Nukem High. We were dedicated Return to Nukem High, the second volume of the Return to Nukem High movie. Yeah, dedicated to Stan Lee.
That's really wonderful. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that. A lot of the hardcores that come to festivals and conventions and meet you know about that link. One thing that I was sort of surprised to see, and you may deny this, maybe not, but lots of big-time A-list actors that you wouldn't think come right up to the Troma booth, and they're happy to see you. There are a lot of A-list Troma fans.
Well, certainly we've been a big footprint on the countryside of filmmaking over the 50 years, without a doubt. I mean, I think our legacy will be people like Trey Parker and Eli Roth and James Gunn and hundreds of younger filmmakers who are, moving, like Trent Haga. He's now directed a couple of good movies, Sundance type movies, and he's probably going to make his move into the fancier kind of budgets, if you know what I mean. In the same way that James Gunn went from doing Super, which was a wonderful film, but lower budget, right up. He went from there to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
and was nice enough to include me in that film.
I think there are many more in the pipeline. I mean, I have friends in I don't know, maybe I shouldn't name names or anything like that, but there are some young filmmakers now putting out independent films, doing it the way they learned from your books.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there have been 6 movie-making books, and one, in fact, James Gunn wrote the memoir. We wrote it together, but he carried the water. And it's very funny and quite inspiring. And then there's Make Your Own Damn Movie, Direct Your Own Damn Movie, Produce Your Own Damn Movie, Sell Your Own Damn Movie. So it's a very good library of inspirational, factual. What's even better than my books are the documentaries, the making of Terror Firma, Citizen Toxie, Poultrygeist. There's a movie about how we sell movies at the Cannes Film Festival that's very instructive and also hilarious. We have a behind-the-scenes feature-length movie of Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High. And, of course, hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, we're finishing up the feature-length documentary. And I would say that if you see those feature-length behind-the-scenes documentaries on those 5 or 6 movies, I don't think you need to go to film school. I think they tell you everything you need to know. Although I guess film school, as Eli Roth says, film school is a great way to fail, and I think to network too, without a doubt. But I didn't go to film school, but I think there is a use for it, especially if you spend $80,000 a year to go to film school. You can make like 20 movies for $80,000, and that's just 1 year.
I can vouch for about all of that. I've read the books, I've watched listened to the commentaries, I've watched the behind the scenes. They're full of comedy, what I would call Lloyd Kaufmanisms, but they're also full of information. They really are how-tos. And I know people who haven't gone to film school who are making films under the Troma School of Making Films. And I know people who have gone to film school, and they're doing other things now.
It's true. In a fair world, those documentaries, those behind the scenes, Poultry in Motion, Truth is Stranger Than Chicken, that one movie is worth a year of film school. And it's hilarious, it's sad, it's factual, it's didactic, it's everything. And it's totally entertaining. And if the festivals like Tribeca or Hampton, or if any of these documentary festivals, they're insane not to have shown some of these documentaries. I mean, the stuff that comes out on Netflix, half of them are unwatchable, the documentaries. You know, thanks to the miracle of digital art, we can have these documentaries on, you know, on safety pins or, you know, pieces of paper, whatever, you know, lumber. But the trauma documentaries, brilliant. Just we don't have any juice anywhere. You know, these festivals are fixed for the most part. So, you know, we don't even exist other than for our fans and you, Brian, and Jabroni Guitars, of course.
Jabroni's guitars are always for sale. Subscribe to Jabroni's Guitar Show for the latest looks and for less than anyone else. We have hybrids. We have fully restored units. Ladies and gentlemen, we have low mileage in stock. We have sunglasses, hats, t-shirts. We have ice cold Jabronis. We've even got pizza. Shop around, find the best price, and subscribe to Jabroni's Guitar Show. It's insane.
At any rate, I beg people, look, if you're interested in making movies, watch our documentary. And they're on Troma now. You can see everything in the first month that you want to see. It's free the first month. There are about 1,000 movies and shorts and documentaries and music videos, collections of Tromette photographs, and you can meet people. You get dates.
Yeah, the Troma community.
People, a lot of discussion. Yeah, it's a family. You know, we're last of the independent studios, and it really is a family. The people who've been involved with us. It's very intense, and a lot of people get married who have worked together on our movies. It's amazing. It becomes a life experience, I think.
That's one thing you'll notice. If you follow Troma movies, you're going to see the same faces.
How about Lemmy? Lemmy.
Lemmy.
Yeah, I mean, until the actors or until the technicians become too expensive.
Yeah.
They love making Troma movies, and then at some point they, you know, we're in their rearview mirror because they're starting to be too much in demand. But you know, we've been lucky with, you know, none of the celebrities who are in our movies charge us. We've never had to pay for any of them. We may have had to pay for Corey Feldman. Yeah, we did pay him. But other than that, I think they've all done it for free.
Yeah, and I've seen people get really, really excited. People I wouldn't name, you know, out of respect, but people get very excited about Troma films.
Yeah, when I was on the set of Suicide Squad, the John Cena and David Desmachian, I can't remember his last name, but they all were fans of Troma. It was amazing. There were 3 of the main stars, or 4 of them, and they all had seen, not all our movies, but had seen a lot of them. And of course, they all had seen Romeo and Juliet because their director, James Gunn, had written it. So, and had a lot to do with directing it, too. He's associate director on Romeo and Juliet.
Another fine film with another fine soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Romeo
and Juliet and Suicide Squad both have fantastic soundtracks.
All the Troma movies, particularly the Kaufman directed ones, but even ones that aren't, have very good soundtracks. And in the Troma community, Troma films are sort of known for that. Some of my favorites would be, Squeeze Play, Waitress, First Turn On, Stuck on You, Toxic Avenger, Nuke 'Em High. It goes all the way to today. What's that process like, Lloyd? Did you pick these soundtracks? Did you decide where they were going to go?
Well, very often they were offered, you know, somebody would come to us, well, hey, Motorhead, they offered us Sacrifice. You know, I made sure we found a spot for it. It's a great song, and it fit perfectly with the kind of punk feeling of Romeo and Juliet, you know. Sublime, the guy, I can't remember his name now, but he loved the early Troma movies. And, of course, he killed himself, but that's a pity. Or is it In Excess? Anyway, whoever we got, they loved Troma. They didn't charge us. and we've been fortunate in that regard. And indeed, I control everything, including where the bathrooms go, and if we got porta potties, where they go, and making sure the lunches are on time, and I have to have all that stuff in my head. And Eli Roth said the same thing, that was a big takeaway from hanging out with us, that if you're going to be a big time director, the best ones, the ones that continue with their careers, are the ones that are the most responsible, that kind of think like producers and try to stay within the budget and try not to be too egoist.
Yeah. Lloyd, I'm glad you said hanging out. I was speaking with Terry Fabrizio, if you remember, of Terry and the Tornadoes. Did a lot of the soundtrack for this film, The First Turn On. He was telling me that there was to be a film called Hanging Out by Troma, that he was starting to work on music for it. But then I guess The Toxic Avenger came along. Can you confirm this?
Hanging Out, it rings a bell, but I don't know. That's a good question. What was Terry's band, or what was his? I know the name, but
yeah, Terry and the Tornadoes. They did the song "You Were the First to Turn Me On." Actually, the soundtrack on this movie is completely stacked. Here on the back, there's a picture, and it's a bunch of actors, and they're singing the song "Sleepover" by the band Shrapnel. When you were filming that scene, you were on a hot beach. I understand you were there all day long. Did these people know the words to the song, or did they have to learn the song? Were they fans, or were they actors?
Oh, no, they had to learn. Usually they have to learn the lyrics. Most people don't know the lyrics to even famous songs.
The band Shrapnel, they were a big tri-state area.
We spend a lot of time with pre-production. We rehearse in the office or in a rehearsal studio. Then we go to all the locations. And in those days, we shot at Super 8. We'd shoot all the rehearsals on location, Super 8, so I could figure out the angles, so the actors would get used to having this lens in their face, because most of them had never been in a movie. Mm-hmm. And also the idea of preparation. And clearly, anything that required choreography or that kind of stuff, sure. That fight scene in Toxic Avenger Part 2, where we have Duke Ellington. You don't need that swing till you got the whatever. Ain't got that swing. I don't remember it, but it's a Duke Ellington. And it ain't got that swing. Do that. Anyway, Duke Ellington. But we cut the scene to that song, obviously. So and then Captain and Tennille for Stuck on You. We definitely were. There is a point there where we edited material to conform to that song, but we also used it, I think, as an opening title, or I think we used it as a title sequence, perhaps. It's talking 40 years ago, so it's a little rusty. But
speaking of Stuck on You, fantastic soundtrack, fantastic film. There's a great scene. Brooklyn band, Junk Rock. They did The Sanitation Man, the rap. You selected this song in the early 80s. Was that the band performing with the beards, or were those actors?
No, those were the guys.
Very cool.
We thought it would be funny if Hasidic Jews sang that. In those days, that was a pretty, avant-garde song.
Yeah.
I was eating at the club on a Saturday night when this lady left a man and I had to fight. It was over in a second when I put the sucker out, and just for good measure landed one in her jaw. 86 that place with the cops on my tail. I pulled out my revolver, no way I go to jail. We were screaming down the street, shooting at the lights, then I shot him in the engine and I said good night.
Even though today it seems very accessible.
It was cut in 1980. I imagine you were putting the film together in 80, 81. I know it came out in 82. I mean, realistically, does that not make you sort of an early figure in New York City hip-hop, which is a very storied thing that's gone on?
Well, I'd like to think so. My regret is that we didn't do more with it. We did have a scene where those guys come back. There was a scene where two cars have a fender bender, and each of them are like clown cars filled with Hasidic Jews, and they fight each other. And it was very surreal too. You know what they wear, and we had a great overhead shot looking down on them, and and we had to cut it out because we didn't want the movie to be more than 85 minutes, 90 minutes. But I regret that and unfortunately in those days, we didn't know about deleted scenes, and storage. We have no money, so, we had to throw out the outtakes.
That's just
I regret
gone.
that. Same with Troma's War. We had a wonderful tribute to Humphrey Bogart in The African Queen, when Humphrey Bogart emerges from the river and his body is covered with leeches. We had a scene where this beautiful young woman with love pillows, naked love pillows, emerges from the water and has leeches all over her melon-heavy breasts. And we cut it out for time. It didn't really fit in the story. And I regret that I really regret that. That's I think one of my biggest regrets of lost footage, because it was hilarious, and anyone who had seen the movie African Queen would have loved it. It would have gone over well, but it didn't really fit the story, and the movie was too long, blah, blah, blah.
It's gone forever.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is gone forever. Not till the advent of DVD did we save, even Rocky. I did the behind the scenes. Because I had that Super 8 camera. Since when the movie was filming, I wasn't that busy, so I was filming a lot behind the scenes on Rocky. And a guy who works for us found all these rolls of Super 8 film in the Troma building basement, and I sent them out to John G. Avildsen. This is like 5 years ago, and he chopped them down to about 12 minutes. And then he and I wrote a narrative script. He and I voiced it, and we recorded it together in 20th Century Fox sound studio. And it's on the Blu-ray box set of all the Toxies. If you get I think it's Fox. I don't mean Toxies. I mean on the Blu-ray of all the Rockies.
Yeah.
And there's my home movies. And to make matters just perfect, we got a lawyer's letter from 20th Century Fox. Avildsen put that piece up on his channel, personal channel, as did I. We got a takedown notice from 20th Century Fox for my own footage, for Avildsen's own. We created this, and Avildsen fought it, and they let him keep it up, but I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's not worth paying. Not worth the time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. In the Rocky films, they're known for their soundtracks. We've been talking about soundtracks a little bit. You've already mentioned War and Kabuki Man. I here have this Nukem High soundtrack. Yeah.
From 2014.
Made by Ship to Shore, a Brooklyn company. They have all sorts of obscure soundtracks. With this...
Well, the people who run that are Troma alums. Justin Martell, who was my assistant, and recently was one of the producers on #Shakespeare Shitstorm. It's his company. And Aaron Hamill, who was the assistant director on Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, is Justin's partner on Ship to Shore. They've done 2 or 3 other Troma movies. Very good. They're very, very good. They're very serious. They're real film fans. And Justin, as I say, was one of the producers of #Shakespeare Shitstorm, some of which we filmed in Albania. So it was a big deal for a low-budget movie.
So with that connection, it really makes me wonder, yes, there's Troma's War, Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. This copy of Class of Nukem High, I did not buy it when it came out in 2014. I bought it last year, had to pay $60, and I've seen it for up to 3 times that. It makes me wonder... Why no Toxie? The Toxic Avenger had one of the most memorable soundtracks. The song Nothing at All. Yeah, well, the song Nothing at All by Dean Summers and Mark Cohen. Even the taco restaurant scene, the opening. It was a group called Dance. The song Lay It on the Line. Body Talk by Sandy Farina.
How about the kind of jazz scoring? We actually had a score by Delmar Brown.
Yeah.
To go with the emotional moments.
Yeah.
The problem was Ship to Shore tried to make the record of Toxic Avenger, but this guy, Bob Feldman, for some reason, who wrote or produced Body Talk, which is the opening credit sequence, a wonderful song.
Yeah.
He refused to let Justin use it. So I assume there's some kind of rights issue. Maybe he doesn't own Body Talk or somebody's suing him.
We're taking this suit to a higher court.
So because of that, Ship to Shore didn't want to proceed with the disc.
Yeah. I personally think it should still come out because the other songs stand on their own merit, and
I agree.
not all the songs of Nukem High are on there.
Sure, as soon as the big budget movie comes out, the old Toxie stuff is going to have new life, I would imagine. I imagine all these rights which have expired for toys and vinyl and God knows what else have expired, so that video games, all that kind of stuff can be relicensed for the old Toxie. The new Toxie, that's up to Legendary. But if I was Ship to Shore, I would do what you say. Just leave that one song out and bring it out. It'd do very well, I'm sure.
Oh, I certainly think it would. Yeah.
Well, let him know. Anyway,
right now?
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing.
Let him know right now.
Okay.
Stop what you're doing. Tell Ship.
Right now, while you can't necessarily get all of these soundtracks or songs to listen to, you can watch all the movies on Troma now. Really good movies with really good soundtracks, like 1984's Dreams Come True. Had this soundtrack by this band Spooner, a great Wisconsin band. And the actor in that,
That's
Michael...
right.
Yeah.
Wisconsin producer, if I'm not mistaken. I think Carl Albright was a Wisconsin producer.
Yeah, that film, I understand it was shot in sort of the Oshkosh area. It's a great film in many, many ways, and it stars the great Michael Sandville, who was the lead in First Turn On.
You know your stuff. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Very good in First. I think First Turn On might be the funniest of our sexy comedies. Vincent D'Onofrio's first movie.
Lobotomy.
Lobotomy.
Yeah. Al Pio was in that film. It really is a fantastic film, and it's full of jokes. You can't keep up, and they're good-natured fun.
It's a delightful film, and I think it's the most the closest to Michael Herr's directed movie. He didn't really come onto set that much, but on that one, I think he was more his movie than mine for sure.
Yeah, I heard you say it was based on him and his blow-up doll or something like that.
Well, he and his wife fell in love at summer camp. And actually, that's where Michael Herz met my brother. And when I went to Yale, Michael Herz was a year or two younger than I. And he looked me up at Yale because my brother suggested it. My brother also is younger. My brother, who made Mother's Day possibly the best Troma movie we have. Certainly the most, probably may well be the best from the point of view of filmmaking. Mother's Day could jolly well, and Death by Temptation also, very good. And Cannibal the Musical by Trey Parker.
Yeah.
You like music, you like the songs. I mean, there's a wonderful score.
No.
In my opinion, that's a funnier movie than Mormon.
Yeah,
I think Cannibal the Musical. I think it's raunchier, and therefore I think not as it doesn't. It's not as except it's not as middle of the road as Book of Mormon, which is still totally original and a brilliant musical. But Cannibal Musical is just so out there. It's great.
Cannibal the Musical is brilliant, and
yeah.
Back to Mother's Day. That is a fantastic film. It's got I Think We're Alone Now and a great iconic scene in a baseball field. And really, the movie is so good that I want to make a point to get to your brother's restaurant.
Well, he has a cafe, and he's got about 400 workers who make artisan bread for all the restaurants and Ralph's supermarkets, all in good old San Diego.
Yeah.
So if you do happen to get there, by all means, he'll give you all the raw chocolate chip cookie dough you could possibly want. He's a great guy. And Mother's Day is Eli Roth, not only did Eli Roth do a Mother's Day program at Quentin Tarantino's movie theater, but he then went on Joe Bob Briggs's TV show on Shudder, and did a whole episode about Mother's Day. And Eli, and my sister was the art director, Susan Kaufman, and Eli, to this day, talks about the little touches that my sister put in the backgrounds and in the sets, and same with When Nature Calls. There's hilarious props and things. You need to see the film at least twice, because a lot of the jokes are in the background that my sister put up in both of those movies.
Yeah, they're both fantastic films, and I think anybody who's interested in any Lloyd Kaufman Troma films would love a Charles Kaufman film.
Oh yeah, he was more talented. He is more talented, but he couldn't move up the food chain, and very hard to survive with a family if you're a Troma director. I have never been paid for directing a Troma movie. I live off, if there are any profits, I live off that. And he just couldn't. He went out to California for 10 years. He lived in L.A., and they wouldn't buy his act. He's too nice and maybe too talented. They like creeps like Abel Ferrara. They like that kind of person. They like Oliver Stone, who started with me, by the way. I discovered him. He was just a shitty novelist. And we grew up from second grade on, and our families were very close. We went to Yale together. And he's a maniac, but he started with me, of course. But somehow, I think my brother could have been. They like that kind of nasty, rough. I don't know what it is. I think it's sort of like debutantes who like motorcycle guy. The debutante that's attracted to a Hell's Angel. I think these suits and agents out there who, have no guts. I think when they see a jerk like Abel Ferrara, I think that's what excites them.
Yeah.
My brother's just too nice. I think incredibly. I mean, his 3 movies are fabulous. They're great. Nothing better.
He seems like a hell of a guy. He must still lose creativity. I saw him on the news at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and he's got the bread. He's got the baguettes on each side of his hat.
Yeah, he's hilarious, and they love him. As I say, he has a cafe, and he's got all these customers who come in, and the housewives have nothing to do all day. They love him because he's so charming and funny, and the bread, pastries, sandwiches. I mean, everything in Bread and C on University Avenue in San Diego. It's the best bread you'll ever have. I mean, all types, olive bread, challah. The only question is, how much does the challah? Too soon. Too soon, Brian. Anyway, my brother it's a pity we lost a great talent. But his bread, you will not find better bread and a more humorous head baker than my brother. And bread and movies, especially horror movies, they both have the knife thing, right? He's still somewhat there.
Oh, he did that hilarious opening. He did the opening to Mother's Day where he cuts his arm off with the bread. Yeah.
Yes. Well, certainly looking at a sailor drunk, I think they prefer to be looking at Sheila Kennedy in the first turn on than they would look at me.
Sheila the cat, even Tammy the Wonder Tarantula, right? Huh?
Yeah, that was my contribution. The with the thing with the tennis racket. I don't want to be a spoiler, but.
Oh, it's hilarious. This is right here on the tape. Introducing Tammy the Wonder Tarantula.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, Kevin the Wonder Duck is in Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, both movies.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to make some pate, duck pate out of him. He was useless. Kevin the Wonder Duck got more money than any actor, had his own room, had a manager and a trainer and 2 friends that we had to put up along with him, and they'd make noise. You know, the ducks apparently have to have a company, or they get very neurotic. And they put the cage with the two friends sort of off to the side of our set, and these goddamn ducks would start yapping. And the sound guy almost blew his brains out, you know.
No behavior like that from Tammy the Wonder Tarantula.
No, but just to make it clear, I'm an animal rights person, and no animal was injured, or insect, or arachnoid, or arachnoid was injured in the making of the first turn on. We created the, well, I'm being a spoiler again, so.
Wow.
But you will never, and nobody who sees the movie will predict what happens with Tammy and the tennis racket.
And I would really like to see both of my fans check out The First Turn On. Not only is it a great film, it's got a great soundtrack, including songs by the Major Thinkers, this excellent Irish band. And so I was actually recently talking with Larry Kerwin. He's half of the Major Thinkers. He was telling me essentially how you sent them home for Christmas one year. Do you recall how that went down? And maybe did you get anything in return for that?
I remember Larry Kerwin, but I don't recall. Hopefully I was pleasant. I was not as pleasant in those days. Michael and I were a lot more insecure, so it was a lot, and scared of somebody getting hurt. So I think we did a lot more yelling at people in those days.
Now let's make some art!
You can see it in Poultrygeist for sure.
Yeah.
But I think hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm, because my wife was one of the producers. And the last 5 or 6 films, I believe I've calmed down quite a bit.
Lloyd, my final question is, what are you working on right now? It's September 2021. What is it that you're doing?
Well, we're finishing up a movie I produced called Divide and Conquer. We're making finishing the EPK and the several trailers, and it's written and directed by Mercedes the Muse, who you may have seen her films. She's got at least she's got Honor Killing and Twins, the Twins movie. I think she has 3 movies on Troma Now, all of which are very good. This one's a bigger budget, and it's a feminist film, but it's a real feminist movie, not this bullshit Me Too crap. It's real. And then Brandon Basham, who wrote the script for Shakespeare's Shitstorm, along with Shakespeare and me, I've produced his new movie, which is called The Final Beginning, Slashing Part 2, and his 2 first movies, Feartown, USA, and Slashing, are on Troma Now, and they are hilarious horror films. Very Troma-esque, but not as graphic and disgusting as what Uncle Lloyd does. Both very wonderful, talented people, and so we're doing the post. We're getting them ready and hoping that they can get in some film festivals, and then when the theaters open up. In fact, Slashing did open in New York and played 2 weeks at the Film Noir Cinema, and we played it out at Laemmle.
Lloyd, are you going back on the road?
Not for a while. I've got a horrendous back pain. I went to where did I go? I went to a faraway land, Sofia, Bulgaria, to be in the Toxic Avenger and the remake. And I got a Delta variant, except it's Delta Airlines. My back, something happened to my back, and I'm in agony. I walk like a Quasimodo. Got a cane. It's here somewhere. Anyway, I have to work with. I'm working with a pain doctor and physical therapy, and at some point, I imagine I'll have to have some sort of operation because it's killing me. It's agonizing. So it's a Delta, different kind of Delta variant. It's not COVID. It's the Delta airline variant. It's a long hike to go from New York to. You stop off in Paris, have a layover there for a few hours, and then you take a plane to Sofia, Bulgaria, which is a beautiful country, by the way. Lovely, lovely country. beautiful. And good food, very good food.
Did you not try a Tromaton treatment, or did the interns make off with all the Tromatons too?
They all want to get me in bed. I don't trust them. I don't know what they would do to me if they got me, put me under ether or something. Who knows what part of my body they would violate. When you get old, you know, we outlive our bodies. Cavemen lived 40 years, maybe. You know, we're living, people living into their 90s now. So
people who didn't have indoor plumbing are living into their 90s.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. All right, jabronis, you heard it from the man himself. Subscribe to Troma now. Check out some of these great films. Enjoy some of this great music. Lloyd, thank you for coming. We're truly pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, all my homies. Make sure to support all the jabronis.
For better or worse, there would be no Jabronis Guitar Show without you, Lloyd. I truly thank you. Huh?
Well, Uncle Lloyd thanks you and all the jabronis everywhere in the world. Thank you. The Toxic Avenger misses you, Brian, and come back and visit real soon. And maybe you'll find a theater that wants to play us, and I'll come out there and we'll renew old times. I'll wear my tie clip.
Thank you, Lloyd. I'm hoping to see you within the year, and thanks again for stopping by.
Well, keep in touch and thank. Oh, whoops.
You there?
Sorry, Brian. Thank you very much, and please thank all our fans, especially our fans in Indianapolis, home of the brave, home of the beautiful, home of the fantastic Indianapolis sports teams. Ciao. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye, Lloyd.
But nothing came out, just continual entropy. So I went home and reprogrammed my mood. You came out as a psychosycopath melody. Antiphonic tragedy. Why don't you and all your fears come home to me? The Jesus in the silence. 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 The Jesus in the
I'm cool, not a fool, I'm the best there is. When I walk down the street, nobody else exists. If I'm at a party, best to get your lady, cause it's for the women that God didn't make me. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My wang, you rang, it's as big as a tree. No woman alive could ever make me drop, cause when I break them open, you can hear them pop. I was eating at the club on a Saturday night when this lady left a man and I had to fight. It was over in a second when I put the sucker out, and just for good measure landed one in her jaw. 86 that place with the cops on my tail. I pulled out my revolver, no way I go to jail. We were screaming down the street, shooting at the lights, then I shot him in the engine and I said good night.
Born in the ghetto, now he's reached the top.
Went all the way, baby.
He killed 3 people, including a cop.
Yeah,
Jump in his chest and he'll blow you away.
good God.
Nobody knows how he got this way. They always ask him,
How'd I get so cool?
he never tells them.
Do you think I'm a fool?
One rainy morning,
I got shot in my head.
nobody cried when they reported him dead.
Do it to it. What you say? Come on, baby. Move a little closer. Get right next to me, honey. What you say, baby? Ooh, you make my thing ring. You know that? Oh, yeah. Oh, don't do it anymore.
They say he's cool, there's nobody finding. He owns a women from here to China. Treats them like dirt, then he walks away. He'll never know how he got that way.
Yeah.